Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update. Join the only official Telegram channel of Rao's IAS Study Circle to get relevant material and important updates.
Hello everyone and welcome to the discussion on explained section of Indian Express newspaper, where we will take up all those articles which are relevant for the UPSC perspective, however have not been covered under the Daily News Simplified initiative. Articles which are put up for today's discussion are listed on your screen, and the time stamping for these articles is already given in the description box. So let us begin with the first article itself. This explained article was published on 11th of August 2021, and it talks about a recent bill which was introduced and passed by the Parliament regarding the inland waterway movement in India. The reason for this was to replace the century-old Indian Vessel Act 1917. This act became redundant and it could not meet the current demand of the inland waterway industry. The objective for this act was straightforward. It aimed at developing India's inland waterways as viable, thriving mode of transport, especially for the cargo sector. Well, as far as this article is concerned, we will look into what are the basic tenets or what are the basic points of this article. We will also talk about the current status of inland water movement in India. We will also look into what are the advantages and disadvantages along with the suggestions and programs which are made by the government of India in order to boost the inland waterway in India. So let us begin with the first one. The bill actually provides the following benefit. First of all, it will bring all inland waterways in India and the movement of vessels under central registry regime. It means one size fit all approach will be utilized in order to bring uniformity at a centralized level. It will define mechanically propelled vessels such as ships, boats, sailing vessels, container vessels and even ferries, which was actually absent in 1917 Act. Under the new Act, Central will frame classification, standard of design, construction and crew accommodation for different kinds of vessels. It will also provide for construction or modification, which will require approval from the designated authority. It will also provide for compulsory registration of the vessels, which is beneficial in order to go for checks and balances and of course the ease of movement across the water bodies. It will create a centralized database that will help in identification and functioning of each and every vessel across the nation. In case of any issue or emergency, there will be an SOS signal that would be generated by the master of the vessel, and any other vessel which is in the nearby will be able to respond that. And if they do not respond on time, this will lead to penal provisions and monetary compensation. Why this was introduced? In order to reduce the accidents on the waterways. Central will also prescribe the minimum number of people that vessel must carry. Must carry here means this provision will help to boost up the transportation and will generate awareness among the people in order to take more routes through ferries rather than road and railways. Central will also define what kind of pollutants and sewage a vessel can discharge in the water. This will help in controlling the pollutants as well as the pollution of water bodies in India. And lastly, it will also focus on dedicated fund for emergency preparedness, checking pollution and boosting the navigation. This fund would come from center, state and other stakeholders who are involved in the inland waterway. Now, keeping these benefits of the bill and which very soon become an act, let us now look into why we require that kind of bill and what is the current status of inland waterway in India. When on the left side of your screen, you can see a map. This map actually shows you the top 6 inland waterways of India. UPSC is not going to ask you all waterways in India because most of them are not even functional as of now. As per the latest report, there are 12 of them which are functional and the 13th one is under process and will soon be operational. Out of 111 which were notified by the central government in 2016 under the National Waterway Act 2016. So as of now, as per the government, there are 111 inland waterways, out of which these 6 are very, very important. So let us see them first and then we will look into the current status. The first and the topmost national waterway is NW1. It is between Haldia to Allahabad on River Ganga. It stretches about 1620 kilometers. It is one of the busiest waterway route in India as well. The second one lies on the Brahmaputra river between Dhubri to Sadia and stretches around 891 kilometers. The third one being between the Kollam and Kottapuram, and it is not on the river but on the west coast canal. The fourth one is on the river Godavari, Krishna, and other canals. So it is a collaborative kind of a waterway and it stretches about 1078 kilometers. The fifth one is on the Brahmani river, delta, and canals. On the eastern side, it stretches about 588 kilometers. And the sixth one is on the river Barak. It is in the northeastern side of India and it is between Lakhimpur to Bhanga. It is about 121 kilometer long. The most important thing which we need to focus here is what we can take from the prelims perspective. The first one, as of now, the longest inland waterway is on River Ganga. Rivers are not the only medium of inland waterways. In India, canals are also used for the same purpose. So if UPSC asks this kind of questions, you can easily eliminate. The number of waterways are more on the eastern side of India rather than on the western side. The reason being simple, more number of perennial rivers are on the eastern side. So these kind of important facts are important for you to understand. However, these are not given directly anywhere. So it is like improvisation and learning by doing. So once you go through these kind of maps, always try to find out the hidden information in these articles. 111 waterways passes through 24 states with an approximate length of 20,274 kilometers, and 10% of this lies in two national waterways, NH4 and NH1. The proposed waterway will pass through nearly 138 river systems, creeks, estuaries, canals, and whatnot. Inland waterway in India has only contributed 0.5% of the model share. In China it is 8.7, in US it is 8.3, and in Europe it is 7%. It only accounts for 1% and even less of a freight traffic. So when it comes to the movement of people, it is just 0.5%. When it comes to the cargo or the freight, it is just less than 1%, which is very less when compared to 35% in Bangladesh and 20% in Germany. So India's own neighbor, Bangladesh, is known for its own water system, and 35% of its freight actually transfers with the help of waterways. So this provides us the current situation that India is very backward when it comes to the inland waterway system. Now the question arises, why do we need inland waterway? The first one being cost saving. The cost of development and investment amount while developing a waterway is much lower than rail and road. It also reduces the transportation and the transition losses because of the less amount of friction which we find on the water bodies. It is also environmentally friendly because of the less fuel consumption, less CO2 development, and of course the negligible land requirement, which also provide us the benefit on land use pattern. It also acts as a supplementary mode because it reduces the pressure on rail and the road networks, as well as it also reduces the problem of congestions and the accidents, where India actually amounts the largest number of deaths. It also helps in optimum model mix because converging the river transport with other modes is very beneficial when it comes to the saving of cost and investment. It also provides better connectivity because it helps in connecting the hinterlands with that of the navigable rivers, in fact to the coast and the coastal routes. So it's like this. If we go on with connecting the Allahabad with the Haldia, we can easily connect Haldia with the Kolkata port. That means we'll be able to connect Allahabad, a city which is far away from the coastal area, to the international trade routes. Inland waterway also provide a potential for the development of domestic cargo transport, cruise, tourism, as well as the passenger traffic, because these are some areas where India is far behind even to some of the developing countries, including your neighbors like Bangladesh. So when it comes to the cargo transportation, it can provide a potential alternative rather than the road and the railways. And the last one is that it will help in generation of job opportunities. However, it is not always feasible to go for inland waterway because of the following issues and the challenges. The first one being cost estimation. As of now, India does not have high degree of scientific improvements where we can estimate the cost of transportation from one place to the other, including the developmental cost, because of the high range of water flow in the rivers during monsoon and non-monsoon season. The second one being the inadequate depth. Most of the rivers in India are going through the plain physiography, and because of that, there is lack of adequate depth. And this lack of adequate depth does not provide large vessels to move openly. We also have impact on the other activities such as development of the ports along the banks of the river, changes the land use pattern, impacts the flora and fauna. There is also the issue of inadequate air draft. There is also lack of night navigation because of the poor equipments and lesser number of investable firms. India is also the country which has shortage of required vessels which can easily transport people and material from one place to the other. We also have shortage of MRO, that is maintenance, repair and overhaul facilities available to the vessel owners. There is inadequate industries on the bank of the rivers which provides lesser number of chances for an equipment to be produced, transported and collected swiftly. We also have lack of funds available to the private entities in order to generate more number of infrastructure and vessels. We have environmental impact which include issues like dredging operations which can damage riverbeds and can also lead to the change in the habitation for various aquatic flora and fauna. The best example here could be Gangetic dolphins. And lastly, we will have social impact, which include loss of livelihood of those people which are dependent on the rivers and the creeks in natural manner. It may also impact the fishing community who are associated with the fishes, because as the large vessels start entering into the river basins, they will remove the small fishes from that particular area. Apart from this, displacement of the people because of the infrastructure development also causes many issues. With this in mind, let us now look into what government has done by now. Well, when it comes to the legal provisions, India has provided five important laws and policies. The first one being your Inland Waterways Authority of India Act 1985. It provides for constitution of the authority for regulation and development of inland waterways. We also have Indian Vessel Act, which has been amended recently. It has actually provided the functions which deal with the survey, registration of inland vessels, removal of obstructions in the navigation, carriage of the goods, passengers, prevention and control of pollution in the water bodies, and many other things. We also have Inland Water Transport Policy 2001, which talks about economic, fuel efficient and environmentally friendly mode of water transport. We have National Waterway Act 2016, which has declared 111 rivers or river stretches to be used as national waterways. Government has also created a separate ministry for shipping in this purpose. And lastly, we have laws related to the environment and other impact, which include your Forest Act 1980 and Environmental Protection Act 1986. Niti Aayog, under the action agenda or a 3 years action agenda of 2017-20, also recommended the following in order to develop the waterways. The first one being the streamline the governance of inland waterways. The current act will definitely bring reforms on that. It also recommended for the development measures for all year round navigation, easing of restrictions on river sea movement, and development of inland waterway transport to facilitate movement of goods to neighboring countries. Here the best example could be your Nepal, Bangladesh and your Myanmar. These three nations can develop a friendly inland waterway system along with India. With this discussion in place, let us now move into the second article for the day. This article came up on 13th of August in Indian Express and talks about the recent failure of Indian Space Research Organization in order to lift and station a Earth observing satellite using GSLV F10. Now, the article says that flight of GSLV F10. GSLV stands for Geosynchronized Satellite Launch Vehicle, and it is the new generation of launch vehicles which can lift heavier satellites. This GSLV was carrying an Earth observatory satellite with the name EOS-3. 3 is the series of satellite. And the reason for this article is that this launch vehicle actually got deviated from its scheduled trajectory and fell somewhere off in the Andaman Sea. Now, how does this function? Let's say this is your Earth and this is your rocket. And this rocket is supposed to launch a satellite in this space. And in order to launch a satellite at point A, this rocket needs to go in a particular trajectory in order to place the satellite in a particular orbit and after that fall back to the Earth. But what happened in this case is that it lifted out perfectly. It remained in its perfect trajectory for a while, but after some time it left its trajectory and went into the other orbit. And because of that, scientists have to destroy this rocket in the sky itself so as to avoid the accident. The reason for this failure or loss of trajectory was the failure of cryogenic engine, which was in the third stage of this rocket. Now, what is this cryogenic engine? Why this rocket was important? And if this rocket has failed, what are the issues which have arisen because of this failure is the part of our today's discussion. However, before that, let us understand what is EOS-03. EOS-03 is a Earth observatory satellite. Observation here simply means that it will see and record whatever there is on the planet Earth with special objectives. It is a powerful Earth observatory satellite. It has provided relatively low resolution but a continuous imaging of Indian landmass. Okay, so everything which is on there in the Indian landmass, let's say mountains, forest, agricultural fields, water bodies, everything possible will be monitored in a low resolution but continuous manner. It will be used for monitoring of the natural disasters like let's say floods, cyclones. So wherever the flood has occurred, how much it has extended, what is the damage as of now in the real time. It will also provide information on the water bodies, crop, vegetation, forest covers and others. So this is the reason why this satellite was very important. And as this was very heavy satellite, GSLV was used as a launch vehicle. Now let us come to GSLV. India has evolved over a period of more than 3 decades in order to achieve a position where it is standing right now. India started with Satellite Launch Vehicle 3, then we have ASLV, then we have Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, and then we came to GSLV 1 and 2, and now we also have GSLV Mark 3. The current satellite which was launched used GSLV 2. This satellite system was borrowed from Russia on a limited period and limited quantity. However, on GSLV 3, which is indigenously developed, is more reliable and has least number of accidents and inaccurate launches. The basic technology behind GSLV Mark II and 3 is the use of cryogenic engine, which utilizes the liquid fuel at extremely low temperature. And this liquid fuel actually provide a very high thrust to the rocket, which can easily lift up heavy satellites. On the left hand side, you can see a sample diagram of a GSLV Mark III. All the launch vehicles have satellite in the topmost area. So this is the area which has a satellite. And because of that, this is the last area which remains in the particular orbit where satellite is placed. The area which is below the satellite are the lifting rockets. They have different stages. So first stage is at the lowest level, then we have second stages, then we have third and sometimes even fourth and fifth stage. The cryogenic engine is normally kept at this stage. So first of all, we will exhaust all the below stages, then we will move to the cryogenic stage. Now what happened in this case was that the first 2 stages went perfectly well. They performed their duty, but when it comes to the cryogenic engine, it failed and it could not provide the amount of power and force which was required to stay in a particular trajectory. And because of that, the engine failed and the rocket left its trajectory. And that is the reason scientists have to shoot it down in order to protect any space related or even earth related mishap. Now, given that unfortunate accident, let us discuss what are the issues which are attached to this accident. As the technology has not been successful in putting up the satellite in the orbit, it has given a setback to major future missions, including the human space flight. GSLV-2 and its technology was to be used for testing on many missions which are attached to the Gaganyaan and the Chandrayaan in the future. However, missions themselves, that is the Chandrayaan and the Gaganyaan, will use GSLV-3, which is more powerful and can lift more heavier satellites. The most important thing which we need to worry is the NISAR mission. NISAR mission was about to use GSLV-2 technology and provide a good scientific development on synthetic aperture radar. Now let us see what is NISAR. NISAR is nothing but NASA ISRO SAR. Now what is SAR? SAR stands for Synthetic Aperture Radar, which is used to measure the changes in the surface of the Earth. So it is also similar to a kind of observatory satellite. However, it uses the synthetic aperture. Aperture here actually stands for a particular technology related to the imaging system. And radar, we all know, works on the reflective principle. So in NISAR, what scientists are using, they are using a radar which is based on the synthetic aperture. And why they are using this? They are using it for two different purposes. First, high resolution images. And the second, that it can penetrate clouds and darkness. That means it can easily be used in any weather and in fact in the night time. One more important thing related to the NISAR is that it will have largest reflective antenna. We have already discussed that radar is based on the principle of reflection. So this satellite will have the largest reflective antenna. Better antenna means higher resolution images are possible. And apart from this, ISRO will also provide spacecraft bus, another radar, the launch vehicle and the associated launch services. So here the launch vehicle is going to be gslv-2, and this is the concern that if gslv-2 goes on having failed missions, that will reduce the credibility of ISRO on launching such kind of high-end technological missions. When it comes to the benefit of NISAR, where it will help in tracking the subtle changes in the Earth's surface. So let's say there's a particular place where earthquake has occurred, and that has resulted in the changes of physiography. Now what it will do? It will bring some changes which can be visible. However, not with the naked eyes, but the satellite would make it happen in easier format. It will also help in spotting the warning signs of imminent volcanic eruptions because of the earthquake systems and changing physiology. It will also help in monitoring the groundwater supplies because it can study the gravity. And lastly, it will help in tracking the rate at which ice shields start melting, because ice shield melting is a part of small changes. So you cannot see the entire glacier melting in just 24 hours, maybe in half a day. It takes sometimes even decade to see those small changes. So those small changes can easily be witnessed by the satellite system called NISAR in a smaller amount of time. And that is the reason why NISAR is important for India. And in order to launch this satellite, India need a reliable GSLV-2 satellite launch vehicle. With this discussion in place, let us move to the next article for the day. This explained article was published on 14th August 2021, and it talks about a recent policy which was in news, and this policy was related to the scrapping of old cars in India. India as of now does not have a dedicated policy where vehicles can come up and go for scrapping. However, we have already discussed this policy in much more detail on 22nd of March 2021. So if you want to read more on the dimensions of this policy, you can definitely follow this article. Then why we have taken up this article today? The reason being to connect scrapping of cars to the circular economy. Article has explicitly talked about the benefit of scrapping of cars to the circular economy and how does the model of circular economy can benefit the scrapping of cars in India. And apart from that, how it can benefit the producer, consumer and the units who are involved in this scrapping policy. So let us take the scrapping of cars through a simple example of a flowchart. As you can see, this is a flowchart of circular economy where we have kept cars in the center of attraction. So we will utilize this example of cars and explain that how this scrapping will help in generating a circular economy in the automobile sector. So let's start with the first one, which is the collection process. We could have started from the production, but we are not talking about the new cars. We are talking about the used cars. So collection point is the place where consumers will bring up their old cars which are no longer in a position to run on the roads. If you go through the article that we have discussed on 22nd of March, you will come across a policy where government will go for a testing method and certify whether a car is in fit position to run on a road or not. Let us say the car is no longer in position to run on a road. Now what will happen? As per the policy, the consumer will have the recycling awareness. This awareness will be given through the customer program, maybe through the suppliers and the producers, and even at the school and the college levels, which can help in generating the overall awareness program. Taking teachers and students here simply means that grassroots level awareness is required. Now, once people are aware, what they will do? They will generate a network of collaboration where customers, suppliers, and government body would come together to build an infrastructure. This infrastructure is nothing but a place where a person can take his old car and get benefits out of it. The role of the government is to incentivize customer. How? Providing better returns on the used car, providing tax incentive on new cars, and provide other supplementary benefits attached to a particular vehicle. After the collecting of a used car, it will be transferred to the recycling process. In this, new recycling technologies will be taken up. Here they have given the example of plastic. We can take the example of steel. Because car has the highest component of steel, they will have a recycling commitment. After the recycling of this product, they will be taken up for the designing stage. In this designing stage, we will utilize innovation and product stewardship. In this, new product will be designed. They will be lightweight because they are utilizing the best available resources. They will have low carbon product because it is not a new product. They are just recycling it. It is like this. If you are using an already available steel in the market, you are not going for the mining activity. You are not going for the collection activity. You are not going for the refining activity. You already have steel in the market. You are just moving it from one use to the other one. Hence, there is low carbon product. This innovation will definitely help in order to build a unit of a particular product. So we will have alternative raw materials. We are not going for the new raw material in the market. We have recycled feedstock. And this renewable raw material will definitely reduce the cost of production. Because we do not have that entire chain of production. As we have taken the case of steel, we have recycled steel. It is also going to be a eco-efficiency when it comes to the operational management of that product. We will have less carbon footprint. We will have energy, water and waste management. We will have renewable resources and we will have life cycle assessment also. After the production of a new car utilizing the raw material from the old car, it will go for distribution. As the cost of production has reduced now, the distribution cost will also go down. This will also help in the logistic management. Lesser the cost means better benefit in the logistic part. Better benefit means more investable funds, which will expand India's logistics sector altogether. After the distribution, it will go for the final consumption. And this time it is the second consumption. So what advantages we will have? So lower cost, as we have seen the case of plastics, so lower cost will go for lower price of a car. So a new car will have cost advantage and price competition. So from this entire cycle, what we have come across is that the example of plastic waste using the circular economy can exactly be used on the cars as well, utilizing the scrapping policy. It will benefit the consumer, collector, recycling institutions, designers, producers, distributors, and of course the economy as a whole. And above all, it will generate the economic jobs, which will definitely increase the per capita income and overall GDP of India. So overall, it is a win-win situation for the Indian economy if undertaken in an organized and centralized manner. With this discussion in place, let us move to the next article for the day. This article was published on 16th August in Explained section of Indian Express and talks about the relevance of Kabul, that is the capital city of Afghanistan, for Delhi, capital city of India. It simply means what are the political advantages, what are the strategic advantages which lies ahead after the capturing of Kabul by the Taliban forces. The question is, what should India do in this crisis, given the past reluctance to talk with Taliban? See, India has a history of not talking to Taliban. Taliban has been associated with many of the organizations which are directly or indirectly indulged in the terrorist activities. The best example being Haqqani Group, which have terrorist links to Pakistani terrorist organizations as well as some of the organizations in India. Because of these linkages, Taliban has remained aloof to India, and India has been reluctant to talk to Taliban directly. But is this a solution? Can India survive given what India has invested in men and material in Afghanistan without talking to Kabul? And the Kabul is right now under the Talibani forces. So let us see why India need to talk to Taliban. The first of all being that Taliban now controlling the Afghanistan. Afghanistan have following benefits and significance to India. The first one being the natural resources. So according to the US agency, Taliban has about 1 trillion US dollars of untapped resources which include both mineral and non-mineral resources. So political stability in Afghanistan would mean better relations to India. Afghanistan is also important for India on security matter because Afghanistan can help India dealing Pakistan. It can also help in avoiding jihadi groups like Al Qaeda. It can also help India in dealing with drug trafficking issue because Afghanistan is part of Golden Crescent. Afghanistan is also important for connecting to Central Asia. Well, Afghanistan is nothing but India's gateway to Central Asia because geographically, Afghanistan lies in the central part of those routes which are leading India towards the Central and North Asia up to Russia. And for that matter, Afghanistan becomes important. It also has the energy security. The Tapi pipeline, which includes Afghanistan and India as a major stakeholders, also provides the avenue to live up to the higher energy requirement for India in the future. It also has the benefit of international trade. We have seen the case of Chahabar port in Iran, which was created strategically by India in order to trade with Afghanistan, bypassing the territories of Pakistan. Given all these benefits and significance of Afghanistan, which is under the Taliban right now, can India take this luxury of not indulging in any sort of talks with Afghanistan and Taliban forces? Because China, Russia, and Pakistan have already started their strategic outreach to the forces and the leaders of Taliban who are situated as of now in the political arena of Afghanistan. The question is what and how India should indulge with Taliban. The answer here could be that talking to Taliban should be seen not as a matter of disgrace but an opportunity to indulge some other party into talk in order to meet India's mutual interest. If India goes to talk with Taliban forces and their political leadership, India can actually seek and guarantee its security matters from the insurgent. And in return of that, India can continue its development assistance to Afghanistan. Because irrespective of what the ideology is all about, Taliban would also look for the developmental assistance from nations like India. And India already has a good reputation when it comes to the political corridors of Afghanistan. Talking to Taliban will also help in preventing the Connect Central Asia policy from collapse. But in order to achieve this, India would require help of Russia because Russia is already in talks with Taliban. India can also talk to China, who is now being seen as a greater stakeholder when it comes to the long-lasting stability in Afghanistan. So, India can make an informal group where it can come together with China, Russia, and Central Asian countries, along with platforms like Shanghai Cooperation Organization, in order to bring a common consensus of India's role in the state of Afghanistan. With this, guys, now we come to the end part of today's explained section discussion. Thank you.